Good evening and welcome to the Norfolk Select Board meeting of Tuesday, November 19th. My name is Jim Lehan. I am joined by my board members Anita Mecklenburg and Kevin Roach. Would you please stand and join me in a pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 7:02 now. First on the agenda is we have a public hearing, which is slated for 7 o'clock. Mr. Roach, if you would, sir.
A notice is hereby given that under the provisions of Mass General Law 138, a public hearing will be held on November 19, 2024 at 7 p.m. on the application submitted by MBJ LLC, DBA, the Hoss. The applicant seeks to transfer a Section 12 on-premises restaurant, all alcoholic beverage license, pledge of license, and pledge of inventory with the manager on record to be Morris Sam Nagar at 210 Dedham Street, Norfolk, Mass., presently held by KOB Inc., DBA Horse and Carriage Restaurant. This hearing will be held in room 124, Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass.
Thank you very much. Justin.
Before we get there, as part of the process, the board should open the public hearing. But just as background before you do that, before you open it, in the board's packet, there's several relevant documents for consideration for action items after this public hearing, but it's pretty simple. There's a transfer of license. It's not a new license, but a transfer of license. I believe the owner's attorney or group is here to speak to that transfer of license, so after you open the hearing, you might want to call upon that person.
Okay. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I move to open the public hearing regarding an application submitted by MBJ LLC DBA The Horse for transfer of Section 12 all alcoholic beverage restaurant license, pledge of license, and pledge of inventory, etc.
And the parties are here. Welcome.
Good evening.
Come up to where the microphones are if you could.
Oh, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Did we
And the
second?
chairs are much better.
You second?
Yes, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote, actually.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Kevin Roach, aye.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Pisano. I'm from Upton, Connell, and Devlin on behalf of the applicant. This application is to transfer the liquor license from KOB Inc. to MBJ LLC. With me tonight is the proposed manager of record, Morris Nagar. He is one of the 3 owners. Also with me tonight is Brian Robbins and Alfredo de Oliveira. They are longtime employees of Horse and Carriage. Morris has been the chef there since 1984. He is very well equipped in how the operations are run and very familiar with the ins and outs of the operations at the restaurant. Brian and Alfredo have also been there 10 to 20 years, so they are very, very familiar and have extensive experience in the food and beverage industry. There are going to be no changes to the premises. They're just going to basically modernize the restaurant with the menu and the decor. The menu will basically stay the same. We understand that all the customers and the locals love their food, so no worries, no changes to there, just modernizing it a bit. Otherwise, no operational changes. We are also applying for a CV license tonight and an entertainment for just TVs and background music only. The pledge of license and inventory is also part of this application for the liquor license. And just for a way of background, the manager of record, Morris, he, like I said, has 44 years of experience in the food and beverage industry. He is TIP certified, he is a U.S. citizen, and a Massachusetts resident. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have for us.
Okay. Ms. Mecklenburg.
I have had your food, so thank you very much. I like it very much. The baked haddock, very, very nice.
Thank you.
But I don't have any questions at this time.
Mr. Roach? No. I've read all the background information. Everyone is comfortable with the transfer. I have no questions at all. Do I have a motion to approve?
No. You would, for this purpose, you'd move to close the public hearing, and then we have to take each of them.
Correct, thank you.
I move to close the public,
No, wait a minute. Is
Unless
there
there's anyone-
anyone from the public that would
Yeah.
like to address any questions to this transfer? Seeing none, I have a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing regarding the application submitted by MBJ LLC DBA.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, all in favor?
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye.
Kevin Roach, aye.
All right, I have no further questions. You have no further questions? You have no further questions? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Congratulations.
Well, the board will take the successive votes for all these various items after this, unless they...
They're on the agenda.
Oh, okay. I thought they were all together under one. Oh, for the CV and entertainment?
Exactly.
Want us to stick around? I'll stick around.
So
Go ahead.
it's up to the board
You're
if they
welcome to
think,
stay.
like,
Well, we can do that.
I'll see it
It's up to you.
through.
Whether it's public comment or
comfortable
what.
doing
That's fine.
Let's do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
What tab is it?
I thought the CV.
It's number 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5, correct. Okay. Fire away.
So I move to approve the action items as printed in the agenda, conditioned on the receipt of all license fees associated with the insurance of all alcoholic beverages license, relevant department certifications, sign-offs and fees owed to the town of Norfolk, receipt of the certificate of liability insurance, and receipt of employee alcohol awareness certifications.
Is that a second?
Wait,
Second.
just make sure I did okay.
You did okay. Can we just, for purposes of the record, just say approve the transfer of section 12? all
Yes.
alcoholic beverages.
That's a fine, friendly amendment.
So amended. Accepted? Okay. Any further questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous vote.
Excellent, we're all set, yes?
No, common victular, and you get an entertainment license.
One more.
Okay, where are we at, number 5?
4.
Number 4, I move to approve the common victualler license as printed in the agenda, conditioned on the receipt of all license fees associated with the issuance. Is that enough?
Yep.
Yep.
Questions?
No questions?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then number 5,
Yes.
I move to approve the entertainment license for MBJ LLC DBA as printed in the agenda, conditioned upon the receipt of all license fees associated. Is that enough?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you
Now
very
you're
much.
Yep.
Now
Thank
we're
you.
good.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
We did not punish you by making you stay.
Thank you.
Good luck, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay. Next on our agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone here that would like to make any public comments? Please, come join us.
This is going to be different.
If you would state your name, although we know it, and your address, we would appreciate it.
I'm used to being behind the closet, so bear with me.
This is a whole different view.
It is, hello. My name is Karen Riley, and I'm at 7 Crestbrook. Sandy, you want to?
Sandy Mai at 8 Eric Road.
We are both members of the Southwood PIP team, and we wanted to make a few comments. I'll kind of do an overview, and Sandy might get into a little of the technical stuff. We've both been on the PIP since the land was purchased back in 2020. And first of all, we thank GFI for purchasing the property and hopefully cleaning it up with potential of redevelopment. There's nothing more than we would all want to see, especially being on the PIP team for so long and understanding what contamination is there. We still would love to see the property developed. So, as we know, GFI purchased the property for $275,000, 86 plus acres, and that was a reduced price based on the contamination. Being on the PIP, I've had the opportunity to interview many who lived on the property. Joanne Yatsuhashi, who is the wife of the chief of staff. She lived on the property for over 20 years. We've interviewed maintenance people, nurses, people who worked in the lab and really understood what happened with the incinerator and where the ashes went and things like that. I've read personally through all the public DEP documents. One of them alone is 271 pages, and there are thousands of others which have documented all the known contamination that we know, the oil spills and many other things. The issue I see at the moment is we still are in the testing phase with this new GFI company, and we still do not understand the full extent of all the contamination and where it actually is on the property. We certainly know the oil spills and things like that, but since they purchased the property, the discovery of radiation in the wastewater beds is new, and also PFAS in the groundwater. So what else is there? We have not completed the testing phase. So if the town is considering purchasing any parcel, since nothing has been signed off as from, the Department of Environmental Protection, it's still a Tier 1 site, all 86 acres, how can we as a town be ensured that that parcel of land or whatever you're considering buying is contaminant-free?
Okay. And I sent this to Rich, but I don't see him here tonight, so I made a copy, if anybody wants to see.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just as a comment in the public session, comment session, we do need to limit this to
She gets
a
five.
shorter discussion if we can. We'd be more than happy to put you on the agenda for a longer discussion if you'd like to do that.
I don't think I need more than a few minutes. I just wanted to say I attached 2 pages from this document, which I've looked at, right? This is the most recent comprehensive site assessment. So it's 2 pages, and I just want you to turn to that page, and I highlighted. My concern is that if you are looking at some sort of property to lease, buy, or whatever it is you're doing in an executive session, right, that you should know that it's only going to be designated for industrial and commercial, right? When they do the cleanup, that's what it's going to be for, right? It's more technical than that. It has to do with the radium. They set the limits. You get the DGCL, which I've tried to just basically explain. It's going to be set for industrial commercial. If you want children on it, if you want people on it, they would have to have different limits. And that's what you can see right here. They do different things here. The indoor time frame fraction, it's a computer program, right? And so they get it to be 3.0. That means it's 3.0 above background levels, right? So I just wanted you to be aware that you're not going to be able to do housing. I don't know what you're doing in executive session, but I urge the town to get more technical assistance before you move forward with anything. The next report is not due until March of 2025. That's from GFI. So we don't, as Karen said, we don't know what's on the property. We don't know how much it's going to cost GFI to clean it up. And I just urge you to move cautiously. If you have any other questions, we'd be happy to come back.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Any other public comment this evening? Seeing none, we will move to the agenda.
I think the next item in the board's agenda is item number 6. It's consideration of approving an additional taxi license for Tandem Mobility Solutions with Mr. Hood Kanabi as the owner. So this is an additional vehicle. He already has a taxi license, and the expiration date's for December 31st, 2024. I do want to let the board know that we did communicate with Mr. Kanabi, letting him know that this is a short time period of this additional taxi license, and he would have to engage in the renewal as well, and he's aware of that. So, he's here. And he's here, okay, and Mr. Kanabi's here if the board has any questions for him. Otherwise, it would be the same thing, conditioned on the approval of all the other documents required, but no issues.
Ms. Mecklenburg, any questions?
Yes, so because it's such a short license, are we modifying the license application fee because it's for such a short period of time?
That's a board
Because
consideration.
Will he have to pay the fee and then pay the fee again?
will.
And what's the amount of the fee?
For the additional is $100.
I know that there is a precedent for this in the past that I recall when I've been on the board before, and we have prorated that
Board's
based on the length of
discretion.
time. And I think that's a fair thing to do, so I would recommend.
Because it's such a short
we do
period
that.
of time.
Yep. It's not reasonable to charge him an annual fee and have it show up again in January, and he's only going to have this for 2 months, so.
If that's what the board's interested in doing, I would just craft that as part of your
So
motion,
I
and
would,
then we'll
if the board would
we'll make the
entertain that,
adjustment.
I would recommend it. All right, any other questions?
No? Should
Do I have a motion?
Do you want to?
Excellent answer, sir.
Okay, so you don't want to talk,
Unless you would like to, I know you've been with us before, sir, so I have no questions, no.
Any concern about our
Okay.
because to the fleet we have, because we assess that the community has more needs, especially with chair car. Seniors are waiting 4 days to get a chair car. So I'd rather have the community have the cars that they can order
Yeah.
in the day.
Actually, sir, come on up and join us, because they can't hear you at home. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. My name's Hood Kanavi. I live at 150 Warren Drive. Last year we applied to have, my business actually not a taxi. My business is geared for the needs of our seniors in the community. So we started last year with the Lexus SUV, but we've assessed that wasn't meeting the needs of the society, as most of our seniors are needing chair cars to move from one point A to one point B, and it's taking like 5 days to make a reservation for a chair car. With the tandem mobility, our seniors will only need 12 hours to make that reservation to have a car. So this year, we've decided to add 2 additional new chair cars to the fleet. I don't know what the limitations are. Next year, we may request to add more cars. We'll discuss that when that time comes.
Very good. Good, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
excellent. No, it sounds like a real asset to our community.
Thank you so much.
No, not at all. Do we have a motion?
I move that the board vote to approve an additional taxi license for Tandem Mobility Solutions with an expiration date of December 31, 2024, and that we prorate the fee, the license application fee per the calendar. The approval of this license is conditioned upon the receipt of all license fees associated with the issuance of this taxi license and any relevant departmental certifications, sign-offs, and fees owed to the town of Norfolk.
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
The next agenda in the board's packet is concerning a municipal aggregation update with Colonial Power. We have Mark Capadonna and Denise Allard who will just give a quick presentation. In the board's packet, there's a memo regarding this. I'll let Denise and Mark speak to it because they can give you a good update. But I'm just excited about this process. We've been working at this for over a year. And, you know, it's been good working with Colonial Power. The fact that we have an opportunity to give residents potentially a lower rate and save them money is something that we're excited about. But why don't you hear from Denise, and if you have any questions, you can answer them.
Welcome.
Hi, congratulations, like Justin said, the town did get their order, so that's
Yay.
great news. November 5th, the order came out, so I know we've been waiting a long time for that. In your packet is a 2-page outline. The first page is simply, I don't know if you want me to go through it quickly, but it's just simply where the town's been, all the due diligence the town has done thus far to get to this point, starting at town meeting, from posting and hanging the plan for public comment. The select board then approved that plan, and we went on to the Department of Energy Resources and ultimately the DPU for approval. So that's a summary on the first page. It kind of puts everything in one place, so it's easy to see what the town has done thus far. And the second page is, we met with Justin and I believe Charlie from the Energy Committee last week to talk a little bit about what next steps were, and that's all outlined on the second page. So this is great news because all you're going to be doing is bringing the residents in town a choice that they didn't previously have. The order allows us to go to Eversource and get the town's usage data. which we already did. And then we put it out to bid an RFP to the suppliers that bid on aggregations in Massachusetts. There's 4 currently bidding right now, and all we've requested thus far, after speaking with Justin, is some indicative pricing, and that's just informational pricing. It isn't actionable, it isn't executable. It's just gonna show the town where the market is and what the different products would cost for additional levels of renewable energy going up, incrementally up from what's required by the state, and Eversource at 63% is the minimum requirement in 2025. So we just wanted to talk about, and I don't know, Justin, do you want me to talk about timing or next steps in the process? I don't know which direction you want to go in first.
Yeah, no, Denise, I think talking about timing and next steps would be helpful for the board, particularly because
Sure.
we're looking potentially a quick turnaround. So yeah, I think it'd be helpful for the board.
Sure. So what would happen from here is after you'd go to indicative pricing, you'd go to executable pricing. And then once you sign, I'm just going to talk about steps and then timing. And once you signed a contract with a supplier, ideally with the lowest bid for a specified term, which we'll talk about, a mailing, and I don't know if we remember this from previous times we've discussed this, a mailing would go out to everyone who's currently on Eversource basic service, letting them know that this is the town's program, these are the rates and the products that are being offered, and if they didn't opt out within 30 days, they'd be automatically enrolled. Fortunately, with the new guidelines at the DPU, we now also have the ability to get a list of everyone who's on third-party supply. So some folks who have already made a choice, right? They went out and they contracted individually with a Constellation or a Direct Energy. In the past, we haven't been able to officially notify those folks of the town's program. And now we're going to be able to mail a postcard to those folks, letting them know that the town has a program and these are the rates. And if you're interested in switching from your private contract to the town's program, you have the ability to do that. So that's great news, and notifies essentially everybody in town about the program. And then we would look to launch the program after the mailing goes out, and we would be providing the town with language for the social media and the town website, a draft press release, so everyone has all the information they need at launch. We would come out and do information sessions at the Council of Aging or the Select Board, or even at, just a town hall, a Q&A, whatever the town. We'll work with Justin on whatever is appropriate for Norfolk. But Justin mentioned timing, so just to get to that, the quickest you could probably launch is a March meter read launch, so March 2025. And because there's a 30-day opt-out period before that and some setup at the utility, the town would need to sign a contract with a supplier by the end of December. So I don't know if that's reasonable or too tight. What we did for the indicative pricing is we went out and requested for a March start. We just figured we'd start there. We can always push that to an April, but what that timeline would look like is we'd get indicative pricing. We asked for indicative pricing. It's coming back on December 3rd. And then we would move at some point after discussing that indicative pricing with Justin and I don't know, the Energy Committee. We could talk about who would need to be involved in those discussions. Getting a signed contract by the end of December. The mailing would go out by the middle of January. There'd be a 30-day opt-out period, which would take us to the middle of February. And then that allows the supplier a couple weeks before launch in March. So that's the kind of quickest timeline available. I don't know if that's doable or not, but that's kind of where we started, and we can always adjust if folks have concerns about that timeline. So I don't know, do you have any questions? I know that's a lot of information.
I just have one sort of procedural question.
Sure.
If someone has opted out of Eversource and has, say, Constellation, and they have a defined contract with them for 18 months, hypothetically, like me,
for example.
and this takes place, am I allowed, I've never asked the question, am I allowed to leave Constellation even though I have a contract with them?
So you would be on the list that we would get from Eversource saying you're with a third-party supplier. We would mail you an informational postcard, and you would have the ability to opt in. The one thing I will say is a lot of suppliers have early termination fees for leaving their contract before the end of whatever if you signed 18 months and you want to leave before that 18 months, Constellation is typically a supplier that would have a $150 early termination fee. So we would just tell you on the postcard, you can call Constellation and ask if they can meet that rate of whatever the town ends up with. Or you can do the math and figure out if it makes sense for you to, maybe take that early termination fee either move over or wait till the end of your Constellation contract, and then you can always opt into the town's program once your Constellation program ends. Lots of options, but you can certainly join. It's just a matter of
All
what
the
makes the
answers I
most
needed.
sense.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions?
That kind of answered my question too, because I was thinking about if there is an opt-in window, like is there, but it sounds like once we've rolled over, anybody could opt in at any time?
So that's just for the initial launch, right, going from basic service to the town's program, but certainly anytime after that launch window, folks can opt in or opt out. Only on their meter read though, because we don't have smart meters don't have smart meters in Massachusetts. So you can move back and forth, opting in and opt out, no fee or penalty to go either way between basic service and the town's program.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
And may I just also say congratulations, and this is very exciting, and for people at home, the hundreds and thousands of people at home who are watching us right now, that this is an opportunity for us to get like group pricing. So for our little tiny community, it's a real benefit for our residents to have the access to this kind of larger group pricing. So thank you for all your efforts on this in this endeavor.
That's our
And
pleasure.
thank you. It's quite a bit sooner than we expected.
It is.
Yeah, the DPU is moving along at a quicker pace than they have in the past, let's say that.
We were originally looking at years.
Correct.
Great.
No questions.
No questions.
If there's no questions, I guess just while we have this here, I'd like some guidance from the board a bit. Would you like to see us move towards a more March launch? Because if that was the case, I think Denise mentioned we would get some indicative pricing around December 3rd.
Correct.
So we have a select board meeting then. I could inform you about that, but you could maybe authorize me as a town administrator at that meeting or something to sign a contract later on. Or we could wait until the end of December, but that would probably push it out a little bit further. So just wanted a little guidance from you guys. Would you like to see a sooner start date? Would you like to see it pushed out a little bit? It's really...
I'll speak first. I would like to move as quickly as possible on this. This is a win-win for the town. The sooner we can get it in place, we know in January rates are going to go up. They do every year. The sooner we can get this in place, the better. So I would favor that personally.
I think that's fine too, an aggressive, as long as it doesn't tax our resources, I think an aggressive timeline is great.
I think it's good for Mark and Denise to know that. We're more than willing to put the work in there. And just the last thing, there's going to be some other options that the town can consider, whether it's additional renewables, is it just a low-cost option? There's a lot of different things that we could factor into that. So in our next meeting, maybe that's something the board talks
Great.
about, because we can develop a portfolio of sort of options as well.
And as much advanced on that we could get, the better.
Exactly. That's what I would assume you'd want, so.
Because it is somewhat complicated.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks. Thank you. Any more
Thank
questions?
you. No questions.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thanks.
efforts.
Appreciate
That's
it.
exciting.
Have a great
Good
evening.
night.
Thank you. Ready for the next item is sort of a standard agreement for weights and measure services. The state operates our weights and measure functions for the town. The Division of Standards does that. So every year they generally now have done an evaluation of the fee, and so the price for their services are going from $19.55 to $24.52. Just for the board's understanding, the county is exploring looking at providing weights and measures fees as well to see if they can provide relief for municipalities. Although it is an exorbitant sum, they are looking at that, and we're exploring, we're working with them to see if that's an opportunity, but for the time being, we probably would want to execute this.
It's boilerplate.
All right, shall I?
And just to authorize me to sign the contract if you'd like to.
I move that we approve the agreement for weights and measure services as listed, that we authorize the town administrator to sign the contract for the agreement with weights and measure services.
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is to consider the date and ballot language for the debt exclusion vote. Our town clerk is here, and just as a way of background on this, the town clerk is the one that is responsible for all elections. I think everybody knows that. And we always work with the town clerk to get her recommendations as to what is accessible in terms of her staff and be able to manage the elections in an efficient manner, which she has done exemplary over many, many years. We chatted a little bit earlier in the week because we recognize that there is a holiday that traditionally falls in that January timeframe. And it is this board's full desire and the town clerk's full desire to make sure that whatever it is that we set for these dates, it provides every citizen the best opportunity to cast their vote. This is an important vote. We want everyone to have an opportunity to have their say in this. This is why we put it on the ballot. This is why everyone on this board did not vote against it at town meeting, not that we would or wouldn't. This is a question that should go to the community, and everyone should have an opportunity to speak. So the town clerk has worked with that thought in mind and has come up with a recommendation that I think will meet everyone's needs. So Carol, would you join us?
We'd love to have you talk in public.
You can handle it. I know you can.
Thank you guys for having me. So I want to start off by saying that we've looked at all the weekends in January, and for one reason or another, they didn't pan out because of the early voting period. I want to make sure everybody understands, and I'm not sure if you guys know this, early in-person voting is not required by law. That is something I choose to do, and I'm a big advocate for. I think that it offers, much more availability for people to, to come in, and there's zero cost to the town. Myself and my staff, we balance hours between us so that there is no additional expense. So I wasn't sure if you guys knew that. I just wanted to make sure that I made that clear. So looking at the dates in January, there was only one date in January that was even really feasible. And because of the holiday weekend, although 78 hours would have been offered for early voting, it was still not desired for that weekend. So we took a look at February 1st. The early voting period, you guys have all the dates in there. I changed around some of the hours so that instead of 2 nights 8 to 8 and 2 nights 8 to 6, it would be because of the holiday on Monday, it would start on Tuesday. All 4 nights would be 8 to 8. There'd be no short days. And then, of course, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then 8 to 8 again on Monday instead of 8 to 6. Just trying to, balance enough hours. That would give 72 hours of an early voting period. Early vote by mail is actually also available. That's the only part that is required by law. So if people wanted to get their ballots by mail, if they were concerned about the weather or something like that, they can certainly do that too. And a link will be provided for a form that they can request that. So I'd like to ask you guys to consider February 1st as the election date, and then you have the dates. I need you to actually vote on, all the early voting hours to set that election.
Thank you. Not the best I can say. We appreciate your consideration on that, and I'm glad it works for you, and I think it works for the voters. So you can see the dates and the times up here on the screen.
I would just want to add thank you as well. I think your commitment to early voting is a benefit to the town. I heard from a great number of people who are very interested in making sure they're able to vote, and the early voting will make that possible. And so thank you for the careful consideration of the date and those early voting hours. That's amazing. Thank you.
I try to offer that for every single, we've come to a pattern now with hours and everything that we do pretty much a standard for every town election as well as any special elections. So I think it's a system that works, and the more people get used to the hours too, I think the more people will pick up and hopefully increase voter turnout.
That'd be amazing too. Thank you, Carol.
Mr. Roach?
No questions.
Ms. McElroy?
None.
Any motion?
All right, here we go. Wait, I got to go back to my. I turned the page too soon. Here we go. I move that we. I had it right in front of me.
For number 9.
There we go.
There's a variety of motions, yeah.
I move that to schedule the special election for debt exclusion, thank you, I apologize. I move to schedule the special election for debt exclusion ballot on February 1st, 2025, and with the early voting hours as listed on the screen. Can I say it like that? Or should I read them?
I would read
You
them.
have
We have
to-
to read.
With the early voting hours of Tuesday, the 21st of January from 8 to 8, Wednesday, the 22nd of January from 8 to 8, Thursday, the 23rd of January from 8 to 8, Friday, the 24th of January from 9 to 5, Saturday and Sunday, the 25th and 26th from 9 to 5, and Monday, the 28th from 8 to 8.
27th.
27th from 8 to 8. Concerning
A
this.
lot of numbers.
To place a debt exclusion question on the ballot of a special election on February 1st, 2025 concerning the schematic design for the Freeman Kennedy School expansion project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? That was a mouthful.
No, I'm
Thank you.
sorry, yeah, I made a mess of it, I apologize.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carol, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
We're lucky to have you, Carol.
So you've set the date and the early voting dates. So one other procedural item that you need to do is then you have to motion for the debt exclusion ballot language. That's in your packet. Council is taking a look at it, bond council is taking a look at it. This has to be verbatim for what's in there.
All right, I'll do better.
I have
Ready?
faith.
I further move that the ballot question concerning the debt exclusion be written as follows. Shall the town of Norfolk be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2.5, so-called the amounts required to pay for the bonds issued in order to pay for costs of construction, reconstruction, architectural, engineering, and project management services and construction administration related to the Freeman Kennedy School expansion project located at 70 Boardman Street and all costs incidental or related thereto? Yes, no.
No maybe?
There's no maybe. There's no maybe.
And a second.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those are 3 yeses.
Right, and
Okay.
then the final agenda item concerning that election process is
Detail.
the police detail.
Yeah.
So the board knows that this is sort of a procedural thing now because of the change in election law. Town clerk always consults with Chief Hines, and they were asking just for one additional detail officer outside.
Shall I? I move to approve a police detail for the debt exclusion vote on February 1st, 2025, with 1 officer inside and a traffic officer outside as needed.
Second.
I don't think we need any discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alrighty.
Good?
Yep.
We're good.
Thank you.
Alrighty, the next item on the board's agenda, we have the consider for the tax classification. So doing the presentation is Mr. Don Clark. Our deputy assessor is here, Chris Minchell, and our finance director is here as well. I do want to take opportunity right before Don does this. Don has been with the town for several years, and this is going to be the final tax classification that he does for the town as he moves on to other opportunities. But I wanted to thank Don for the work that he's done for the town. I'm sure the
miss
board
you.
wants to do that as well, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a little something I'm going to read first, and then if there's any questions, I'll be happy to go through the PowerPoint. You guys have any questions on that? Okay? Okay, so thank you all for having me here tonight. I know you've all received the PowerPoint packets, and hopefully you had an opportunity to review them. Anita and Jim, I know you've gone through this quite a few times already. And Kevin, I believe this is probably your first.
Yep.
So again, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time.
He has been getting your tax bills.
So we're all here tonight to see if the Select Board will consider any of the tax rate options. The Board of Assessors has made a recommendation to the Select Board to consider whether or not to continue with a single tax rate or go to a split tax rate. Also, consider any of the 3 allowed exemptions. The town of Norfolk has remained pretty consistent with its residential and commercial percentages in the past 5 years. The building permits were up this year. We had quite a few of them, but unfortunately, a lot of them didn't qualify as growth for the Department of Revenue's regulations. The median sales prices were up about 3%, and the assessed values have increased about 3.5%. So the 3 exemptions for the board to consider tonight are open space, small commercial, and residential exemption. In the event that the board decides not to adopt any of these exemptions, the tax rate would be $15.97. This rate is still subject to approval from the Department of Revenue. So again, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Pretty straightforward. Well, we have never had any ability to have a commercial rate without driving our small businesses to another community, and we've done enough of that. So I don't think that that's a viable option for us. So, any opinions, discussions?
No, the only one I've had questions on in the past is open space, but I think I understand it in a different way right now, so I think that not splitting the rate makes sense for us as a community.
We don't have a choice.
So it's just going to require a vote.
May I ask how the 15 points, the tax rate that you said there, how does that compare to last year's?
It's up 40 cents.
40 cents.
40 cents. Yep, I don't have any questions. I think splitting the rate does not make sense for our community at this time.
Yeah, I don't either. Mr. Rose? No? Okay.
For the board and just for Don, because I think, Don, you did mention this a second ago, in terms of new growth. New growth for this year, it's a little bit lower than what we've typically had.
Correct.
Can you just, once again, say for the board why that was a little bit lower than usual? Because the last time we've been around there's 2020.
Correct. So the growth was down again this year due to DOR's regulations when we look at building permits as far as what took place on properties. If there are additions and things along those lines, we can use that as growth. If it's just vinyl siding, roofing, windows, the Department of Revenue doesn't allow that. So a lot of the permits were simpler like that this year, which put us at about 575, I think, on the growth, where last year we were in the 8s or 9s. And we'd also, in the past, 7s. In the past years, we've had picked up a lot of construction that took place in town without permits. So that helped as well. And we're pretty much all caught up on our cyclicals to 2018. So the data that we have on record is pretty accurate for the entire town at this point.
And next year's a reevaluation year?
Correct. It'll be a certification next year.
Thank you, and that's a lot of good work that the Assessors Department has done to get with those cyclicals and get those updated and so forth.
I know you had a lot of catching up to do about 5 years ago.
Yes, we did.
Yes, you did.
Just for the board votes, I just want to have the finance director add one little component.
So incorporated in that rate is also the fire station debt that everybody was concerned about. So that does reflect, the rate of $15.97 does incorporate the debt for the fire station for '25. Which was approximately $433 per household, average.
It's going to be 433 of the excluded debt. That was there.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
No.
Nita?
Nope.
All right, we need to vote the rate. And we need to vote whether or not it is a single rate, or however you so choose.
Do we want one motion for a single rate?
Yeah,
Yes.
the recommendations are on the screen, or I think they're at the final page of the presentation as well. Yeah, if that makes it easier.
Yep, I saw it back there. Do we want to include the amount of the single? So I move that we adopt I'm assuming we're all saying a single tax rate?
Yes.
I move that we adopt a single tax rate of $15.97 per thousand.
Do I have a second?
Wait, hold on a second.
Wait, what did I do?
That's all you need to do.
Oh,
Just-
no money. All right.
No money.
I vote to adopt a single tax rate for the fiscal year 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I think we should do 2, 3, and 4 as well. And
Okay.
you can do them as one motion, I would think.
Okay, I move not to adopt the open space exemption, the residential exemption, or the small commercial exemption.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That'll do it, huh? Do it. Best of luck.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
We will miss you. Todd, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
On the next agenda item in the board's packet, you have in your packet a draft of the select board goals on the workshop. I think the chair wanted to mention for the board maybe, because we didn't have this information in the packet when we did present it, that you might want to reflect on it for a little bit. So we wanted to provide it to you. And if you have any comments or anything further, if you direct them to me, I can incorporate them as part of the goals. And I think consider it at the next select board meeting.
I agree. Is that acceptable to everyone?
Yeah.
That seems great.
Okay.
That seems
Agreed.
great.
And the next item is Kate's on deck for retiree health insurance rate update.
He saved the good stuff for you.
Before the board is the new retiree health renewal rates for January 2025. Now, this year was a very unusual year for the senior plan renewals, and the town of Norfolk is looking at a significantly higher renewal increase than in years past. So higher utilization, we're still seeing that post-COVID, more people are going to the doctors, and now more people are getting treatment, the medicine and everything, so we're still on that trend. But there was also a lot of changes to Medicare itself that accounts for these changes. And I would say the majority is probably the changes from Medicare. So the changes include, the first one is Medicare increasing Part A deductible, so 4.9%, and Part B by 7.9%. So that's resulting in supplemental plans like Medix to pick up this extra amount. The second change is Medicare, CMS will be raising the reimbursement rates for outpatient services, so that increases the costs of the plans. And then the third is the Inflation Reduction Act. So the implications for Medicare Part D plans, the PDP portion, resulting in a significant cost shifting onto the plans. So unfortunately, all of these things, we don't have control over. We're in the midst right now of open enrollment for our senior plans. Wrapping that up, I believe, tomorrow. So all this information has been sent out to our retirees when we got this about a month ago. We've had, some questions, but we've given them all this information. I just want to note that historically, our plans with Maya have been among the lowest in the market, but also the GIC plans and also plans from West Suburban Groups, kind of the two other things we compare to, which is like Maya, they're seeing the same high cost. Because again, a lot of these are out of our control. So no need to vote anything, I just wanted to make the board aware.
It is what it is.
And just to put it in my own words, it sounds like we aren't going to benefit from shopping around for a different plan. This is affecting, all these changes are affecting all the plans across the board.
Yes, if we did make any changes, it unfortunately would have to add copay. So really just, I'll kind of just have to stick with these changes.
All right, thank you.
Could I ask the board's indulgence for a 2-minute break?
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
2 minutes. Andrew? We're just going to, it's a 2-minute. Thank the board for their indulgence.
So the next item is put on is for town meeting follow-up. I'm going to try to be fairly quick on this. I know the board remembers as part of the select board goals initially, there was a discussion about, whether motions would be done by the board or inserting recommendations, et cetera. Just emerging from town meeting, there's a few items that I think we probably do want to follow up on. I had the opportunity to speak with the moderator, Jay, about some proposed changes. One of them is the moderators meeting that we have is prescribing the bylaw the amount of time that it needs to be done. One of the things I think to make town meeting operate more effective and be more proper is we don't need to stipulate the time. We can stipulate when we have it, right? That we will have a moderators meeting, so we can actually review motions. So if there's any questions, I think if we have the moderators meeting closer to town meeting, we can resolve questions rather than doing them on the floor, which I don't think is really conducive for a good town meeting. So that's one of the changes that I think I would recommend that we explore. I know the board has talked about motions. That was something that I spoke with Jay as well. I'm going to speak with Mr. David Lutz advisory about that. That's something that I think might make sense, because the current process is that, the advisory committee will have to craft motions. We'll have to clean up the motion, but it's a scramble as we get towards town meeting. I think that's some area where we can probably clean things up as well, right? We can do a little bit better job there. So there's just a variety of things that I think make sense for us to explore, and I wanted to get the pulse from the board too before we did that work, and see if you agree with some of those changes and whether you want me to explore those changes.
Big advocate of the board bringing, the board that is placing the motion, whether it be advisory or, well, not advisory, whether it be planning board or board of selectmen, they should be making the motion. And then advisory board makes their recommendation. That's the purpose of an advisory board. I would really love to see that change, personally. If it's a select board, we make the motion. If it's planning board, they make the motion. We're the ones bringing it forward. We should be making that motion. And then the advisory board puts in their recommendation for or against, or whatever they choose to say. That's how the system should work. So I would love to see that change. And you said that your talk with Jay, he was favorable to that. I would think David would be as well. It's not a power thing. It's just the appropriate way to do it. You should, the board is, if we're bringing something forward, we should advocate for that. That's our role. Otherwise, why are we bringing it forward? And I think we should be making that motion. So that one I'm 100% for.
Does that involve a change in the bylaw?
Yes, it would. Yep.
Yes. That's why I'm bringing it to your attention, because I know for the board, when you initially discussed about it, it's not about, taking power or anything away. It's just to make it more,
It's just the way it should be.
Yeah.
And you should, anyway, I've said it.
I think a variety of ideas, and I'll write them in a memo, but I wanted to get the pulse of the board, and I also want to make sure I contact all the stakeholders. I think we can outline a few things that might make things a little bit better moving forward.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then one of the other town meeting follows, just a heads up, and it's going to sort of tie it into my town administrator updates. I will be contacted. I've already set a meeting with our representative Vaughn, and I'm working on setting a meeting with Senator Roush. One of the other important town meeting follow-ups is getting the deed restriction lifted up on the Southwood property. So I will be working with our state representatives to do that, as well as working to submit the special act regarding the sewer legislation. So those are things that we will follow up after town meeting. Just a couple other quick updates, if there's no other questions about the town meeting follow-up. We did get some information about a grant that we applied for that we talked to you about in regards to the sewer and connecting to MCI regarding sewer. We did not get the Mass Works grant that we applied for, $500,000. So I was a little disappointed.
That is disappointing.
However, we did have a follow-up meeting with the state, and they gave us good feedback. Essentially, one of the biggest things that they said was an issue for them to fund our applications. We don't have an MOU or agreement with the state. So I will be, with the board support, trying to work with our legislators to get some more sort of documented, willingness to work with the town regarding that sewer. So that's something that we're going to work on following that informational session that we had this past week. And then, last week, the Economic Development Bill was passed, and I know the board is very aware, this was delayed, and it did not make the previous session, but they were working on that bill. I did communicate with Senator Roush and Representative Vaughn's team that, the things that were a part of that original proposal, it would be great if Norfolk got that included. And so they did pass the bill, and I'm happy to report that part of that bill passage, but it hasn't been signed by the governor, is there's $300,000 for the emergency, fire and emergency medical services, as well as $1.5 million for educational improvements for the town of Norfolk as well. So that's great, that's a part of it. I will just caution, hasn't been signed, it is not, even if it's part of this bill, it's not guaranteed. We will advocate for it, we will fight for it, but that's really, I think that's good for the team that we advocated for this. It was an all hands on deck process, and we appreciate the work that went into the advocacy, including our fire chief and the proposal and the data behind those EMS services. So I'm excited about that, if the town gets it.
Is there a timeline? Once it's signed by the governor, it's a thing.
Yes, it goes through a process though, and it goes through a variety of departments and so forth. So there is a process.
There's more to,
Yeah.
all right.
Although we've learned now, particularly with 9Cs and different things like that, with earmarks, because if the board remembers the last year, the earmarks that we got were cut in half. We did have an earmark that was part of our last budget for the Seacon culvert and the mitigation. I got today notification that we can apply for it. I will be applying for that tomorrow. So that's $25,000 for that, and I want to get it in hand as soon as possible for the town. So that's some small updates for the board there.
Awesome. Are there any steps that the board could take to help this process?
I think advocating with, our state representatives is really important. They're going to be very helpful in that process. And, any work that the board can do there is probably helpful.
Thank you.
Those are my updates.
Ms. Mecklenburg, any updates?
No updates.
Mr. Roach? I do not either. Okay. So we have, why don't we take care of the warrants? Then we'll go into executive session.
All right. I move to approve the warrants as they're printed in the agenda.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There are no minutes,
There are no minutes this week.
so we are now going to request an executive session. The select board will be entering into an executive session to consider 3 separate matters, and the board will convene an open session at the conclusion of the executive session to adjourn. First session is to convene an executive session pursuant Mass General Law C-30A 521A6 to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property 111 Dedham Street. Second matter being to convene an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law C-30A 21A3 to discuss strategy with regard to potential litigation insofar as an open meeting may have detrimental effect to the litigation position of the public body, 115 Park Street. The third matter is to convene an executive session to approve executive session minutes. I will request a roll call vote.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
Kevin Roach, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye. As mentioned, we will return to general session only, pardon?
You might close it, you might not return. We have nothing else.
We'll return to adjourn.
You could do that, yeah.
No, we'll do that.
Okay.
We will reconvene because we have to close the we'll reconvene to adjourn.
Okay. Does that keep Andrew here? Does that keep you here?
I guess.
Oh, does it?
I don't know, yeah. We've never done it this way. I don't know.
Are you still on?
Yeah.
Well, then we will change that. I don't want to keep you here. We will not be reconvening into open session.
So we need to adjourn this meeting?
So we will,
No.
no.
Just keep it as
Nope.
is, yeah.
Okay.
No, we can adjourn to the executive session.
Thank you.
All right.